The Kane and Haaland debate. Can Chelsea put on a run to claim a European spot, or will Brentford's bees be on the attack, or will we see doves cry when Brighton get European football for the first time in their club's history? Join us now for the best panel on YouTube at the Super 6 podcast. Let's go. Welcome to the Super 6 podcast. I am your host, Kieran Stewart. I'm joined by Steve K, Kevin Parker, James Dixon, and Farrell Curlin. How is everyone doing?
Very good.
Good, mate.
Bored with international football.
Yeah. Go on, Kevin. How do you feel about international football when there's that break coming up? When the momentum of the Premier League is smashed to pieces and we've got to watch our nations play?
Listen, personally, I dread international football because maybe it's changed over the years as a City fan. But, for me, I look at international football as an opportunity, a negative opportunity for our players to go off for their various countries and get injured or play too many minutes. So it's a negative for me. I've not watched any of the international games that have been on over the last week. I have no interest in it. It's not a negative in a way that I'm not anti-England, but I just see it as a negative. And I'm glad at the end of international weeks so that I can assess the players, the City players coming back, and hope that they're all fit and ready to go for the domestic games that are going to take place after that.
No, definitely.
Yeah. You should have watched the England game though against Ukraine. You would have seen the best player in the world, the best player in the Premier League. Really on song.
Haaland is Norwegian.
Yeah, Harry Kane got a goal.
James, it is your Super 6 podcast debut. How's your feeling after the international break? You're glad to be back. No injuries during the internationals.
Yeah, well, we were quite smart, and we sent our star player off to New York for a bit of a break. To be honest, we pulled him out of the camp and sent him off to New York for a bit of a break, because I'm of the opinion probably the same that Eric Ten Hag is, in the fact that Manchester United pay your wages. So at the end of the day, our priority should be our players. And yeah, it's great to play for England, and yeah, obviously you're representing your country, but if Marcus Rashford goes and gets injured, he's carrying our team at the moment. And if he comes back with an injury and he's missing 5-6 weeks, then that negatively affects us. And, if we're paying him 250 grand a week, what use is he to us in the physio room? So I'm probably a bit like everyone else. Like, come major tournament time, we're all England, we're all 3 lions on the shirt, we're all loving it. But when it comes to friendlies and like little tournaments here and there, like, I'm just not about it in qualifiers, to be honest. Bring back the Premier League.
And James put it in everyone feels that way, but James just put it in the most blunt way possible. So there you go. Taking a leaf out of James's book tonight. All right, so we've got plenty to discuss. Conte getting the sack. The last time we spoke, it was pretty much what I think you all agreed. It was pretty much writing on the wall, but did we think it would come this early? The Kane and Haaland debate. We was meant to do it last week. We're going to do it this week. Why is there a debate with Haaland smashing so many goals so far this season? Are people downplaying what he's done? But Kane, consistent as ever, just beating his Wayne Rooney's England record, constantly getting respect. Is he getting respect that he's due? Because people like to claim that, seeing as Tottenham haven't won anything, these goals don't mean anything, but they clearly do. I'm going to go to Kevin first. Kevin, the big debate going on this season is Haaland and Kane. Many people saying that questioning who they would put in their team of the season up top. Do you feel that Haaland isn't getting quite the credit that he deserves in that way with the amount of goals that he's scoring?
Listen, it's a difficult call, isn't it? Because, you know, the advantage that Harry Kane has got is he's 8 years older than Erling Haaland, so he's had the opportunity to score a lot more goals because he's played in the Premier League for a lot longer. I think the chances are, without checking it, that Erling Haaland possibly has already scored more goals in the Champions League than Harry Kane has. He can't be far behind. I mean, if Erling Haaland was English, who would you pick currently to lead the England line?
Haaland. But I think that that's not as straight a question as you're saying. I think that there are people that say they would pick Haaland in that Kane in that position over
They probably
Haaland.
would. They would probably pick Kane because he's England's leading goal scorer. But currently in the Premier League, I think Harry Kane is 7 or 8 goals behind Erling Haaland. You know, their goals in Champions League, and you know, they both played until the previous game. They both played in all the Champions League group games, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. You know, Erling Haaland clearly in England is currently the best striker. And so I think the obvious answer would be, based on current form, who should lead the England line had Erling Haaland be English, it would be Erling Haaland. But that's not a negative about Harry Kane. You can't question the fact that Harry Kane has beaten Wayne Rooney's England goal scoring record. And I do think that Harry Kane is an exceptional footballer, apart from him being a goal scorer. I think he can do it. I think he can play. His ability to pass the ball, as we saw with that first goal he scored against Ukraine yesterday, you know, the vision that he's got to play that ball out wide to Saka and then to make the run to receive it. So Harry Kane's a very, very good striker. But between the two of them at the moment, who's the current best striker playing in England? It's Erling Haaland, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, people might say that Harry Kane is a better footballer, and I couldn't challenge that really. But if you want a player in your team that's guaranteed to score, Erling Haaland has scored a goal every 3 shots he's had in the Premier League this season. That's an unbelievable record. Mm-hmm. So currently on form, Erling Haaland is a better striker than Harry Kane. But you can't compare Erling Haaland at 22 against Harry Kane at 30.
Yeah.
But I do know that when Erling Haaland gets to 30, that his record will be here. And Harry Kane's will be down there. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. James, the Haaland and Kane debate, what side of the coin are you on?
I think you need to ask 2 different questions. I think if you ask who's the better player, I would say Harry Kane. If you ask who's the better striker, I would say Erling Haaland. And Kev summed it up quite well. I think Haaland's strike rate is frankly ridiculous. What I disagree with slightly is I would be one of the people that picked Harry Kane if Haaland was English, because I think it's different strokes for different folks, and depending on how your team plays, like if you play in a Manchester City team and you've got Kevin De Bruyne, one of the best passers in the world on the pitch, then you want a penalty box striker who is clinical, of course you do. But I'm a Manchester United fan. If you offer me one of those players to put in my team right now, and England, because I think we play quite similarly, I would take Harry Kane. Because we don't necessarily play with wingers that get the ball into the box. We play and Harry Kane, one of his great attributes is his vision and the fact that he gets involved in the build-up. Kev alluded to it before in the Ukraine game. He switches out to Saka. Saka, in fairness to him, plays an absolutely worldie of a ball. But Harry Kane has got that nous to get into the box. And when the ball gets put in, he's actually wrong side of the defender. But he manages to get to the ball first and put it in with his left foot. So left foot, right foot, headers, his movement, overall build-up play. He's probably the best passer of a ball as a forward or as a striker in the world. So there are 2 different questions. I'm a big fan of Erling Haaland. I think he doesn't get enough credit from my point of view. you can say he plays in a super team, and yes, he does, but that team isn't top of the league. Yet Haaland is going to break all kinds of records this season. Like, Erling Haaland is a phenomenal striker, and he will break all records, but he won't break all records in this league, because I'm pretty sure Kev knows that he'll be off to Madrid in a few years. I'm pretty sure that's well known that they will break. If they don't get Mbappe, then I'm pretty sure that Haaland won't be at City long term. But while he is here, they have got an elite striker and probably the best striker in the world. But for me, it's two different questions. Player, Kane. Striker, Haaland. Just comes down to what you prefer.
Okay, nice one, James. Farrell, who would you take right now in the Liverpool team? Haaland or Kane?
To be honest, I think James has laid the argument out quite neatly, to be honest. It is a question of what you're looking for, whether you're looking for someone more team-oriented at this point in time, and that player would be Harry Kane. That's absolutely no disrespect to Erling Haaland, who's, as we all know, is a freak of nature when it comes to scoring goals. You can look at the records that he's already broken in his first sort of proper go at it. Again, we can't disregard Kane, because ultimately, at the end of the day, he's got over 300 goals for sort of club and country. It's a distinguished record. But again, we're comparing it to a player that's far younger by comparison, and you don't know critically how Haaland's going to evolve as a footballer. We know he's an elite goal scorer at this point in time, but how is his overall game going to change over the years? We can't just expect he's going to, we can predict reasonably he's going to break all these kind of scoring records, but critically, is he going to stay in his current sort of format for City or for Madrid, wherever he decides to stay or go in his future? So it's very hard to predict that. But yeah, at this current point in time, I would pick Harry Kane, though it does say a lot about Erling Haaland and what people can expect from him going forward, that those comparisons are already being made with someone who we all know is an elite national sort of striker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair response. Steve, I'll ask you slightly different, but the same question as well. Do you feel that Haaland is getting the credit he deserves for a 22-year-old striker who's currently scored 42 goals in 37 games, got 5 assists in all competitions, and if he does continue with an injury-free career, is set to break records that they did post-war, where people were smoking cigarettes at halftime and having a glass of whiskey to motivate them? Do you feel like it's been downplayed? Because I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, look, Erling Haaland's just a goal-scoring machine. He's a phenomenon. He's not normal. I don't think we've ever known or seen anything like him in the Premier League, if not in Europe. So, no, I don't think he gets a fair shout. I think there's a lot more to his game, and yeah, I mean he's gonna break all records. And then it's like you've just said there, that I don't think people understand how young he is. He's 22 years old. He's doing this now. This is his first season. He's come from the Bundesliga, and we wonder whether he could do it. He's come straight into the Man City side and just hit the ground. I mean, to say he's hit the ground running is a bit of an understatement, isn't it? I mean, he's hit the ground running and some. And just like I said a moment ago, we haven't seen anything like him in the Premier League. So yes, for me, he doesn't get enough credit. But if I can just give my view on who I would rather have, I think what you've got to remember is that Pep Guardiola wanted Kane before Haaland, and there's a reason for that. And I think it's the reason why what James and Farrell have said is because he's just a better overall footballer. And for me, he would fit into Manchester City's side a lot better. I think Manchester City would be a better football team with Kane in it, rather than they would be with Haaland, with Haaland in it. I think, personally, if he was playing there, even with scoring less goals, I feel that they would be a lot closer to Arsenal. I feel they may even be top of the league. I think they would be better this season with him. And look, Pep Guardiola's a genius. There was a reason why they wanted Harry Kane to come in. And for me, I'd take Harry Kane over Haaland all day long, all the time. But again, it's, we're all saying the same thing. The fact that we're not saying Haaland's, a bad. He's just an absolute. He's a goal scorer. But if you want someone to win you, like as a team, to go and win you a trophy or get you closer to winning honours, for me that would be Harry Kane. And I think Pep Guardiola wanting him last season or season ago, and we know that he wanted to come. Kane wanted to go to Manchester United. There was a reason why he wanted him first, and that was because he wanted him to fit into the system of what he wanted to play. I think Haaland, funny, as weird as it says, whereas it is, he's actually Pep's second choice. But yeah, Kane for me. But Haaland, phenomenal, absolute phenomenal, and he'll go on to be, not normal. That's
what I will say about the with regards to, because it's another argument which has been going on all season with regards to, has Haaland made City worse a team? But I think like Man City have not had an out and out striker, especially a target man, for years. They've been playing with a false nine, or they played with Sergio Aguero, who's been injured on and off. So to have someone as a focal point in their team is gonna be dodgy. I feel like Kane would have had to adapt to a Man City team, because they've not had that focal point. We saw at the start of the season, balls weren't even going to Haaland because that wasn't a natural play, and then all the balls were going to Haaland. So I just think it's a part of Manchester City getting used to having a focal point up top. I think next season Manchester City are going to be unstoppable. They're going to be an absolute force because Haaland's going to be more adapted to the team. The team's going to be more adapted to Haaland, and it'll be his second season. We're looking at Darwin Núñez like he's going to be one of the next big things once he adapts to Liverpool, once Liverpool adapts to him. But we're not thinking about that of Haaland when he's already got 42 goals. So I do think we're still downplaying it. And I think that in the long run, I know what James is saying, there's not much of a long run, but 2 or 3 years, I still think Man City are going to be an absolute machine with this guy up front.
Yeah. I think the potential of Man City, by the way, with Haaland is greater than the potential of Man City without Haaland. Like, I think when they get it right with him, as proved in the Leipzig game, that it's unstoppable. It's just how often they can do that. And I just want to take this moment to actually appreciate the fact that I've got fans of other clubs that actually appreciate Harry Kane, because I'm in constant arguments with my own fan base on social media who are telling us to stay away from Harry Kane at all costs. Whereas I'm very much pushing the boat of saying he's the one signing that gets us to competing for the league. I think he's a phenomenal footballer. And I think if you put him in our team straight away, he makes us instantly better. But all the United fan base are like, no, don't want him. He's washed up. He's injury prone. He's too much money. Blah 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 blah. It's crazy.
So
criminally underrated.
Would you go for Kane in the summer then?
100%.
Uncertainty. 100%. Yeah.
But the problem is Daniel Levy, right? But he's got 1 year left on his contract. It depends who our ownership is. You'll see me noticing we're wearing my Blazers out, little jumper. It depends who our ownership is, right? If our ownership comes and we get all this wealth, then realistically 100 million for Kane is a drop in the ocean. If the ownership doesn't change, we've got no chance of negotiating with Daniel Levy and getting Harry Kane for less than 100 million. So it very much depends on where the ownership standpoint is. But if you give me open checkbook, I'm choosing over any striker in the world. Any.
Yeah. He's got to go.
Are you worried about buying at all?
He's got to go.
So you wouldn't want you wouldn't want Erling Haaland should they have the opportunity to sign him now?
No, we don't put crosses into the box. We don't service Haaland well enough. We don't.
Yeah, but City are accused of not servicing him well enough, and he's got 42 goals.
But since they've serviced him, he scored 5 goals in a game, and since they serviced him, since he's getting more service, he's obviously scoring more goals. So, like Steve said, I think City are learning to play with Erling Haaland, and Kieran said it as well. And I think once they finally get that right, they're going to be an absolute machine. I think Haaland's a phenomenal footballer, like a great goal scorer. But I just don't see him in United's team. It's like my favourite striker of all time at United is Ruud van Nistelrooy, right? Absolute bagsman, 150 goal contributions in 200 games, which Haaland makes look ridiculous. But Van Nistelrooy was incredible for me. But would I take him in our team right now, or would I take Harry Kane? I'd take Harry Kane for the way that our team is set up.
I think that's a very good point, because actually I do see similarities between the way that Haaland plays the game and Van Nistelrooy did.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
Very similar. You know, there's something that almost looks ungainly about them.
Yeah, they're very tall, gangly as well. Yeah.
I think Pep has got a lot to do with it as well, though. I think Pep's got. Do you think Pep? I think Pep's also sort of a major, impact force, wherever you want to put it. The reason why Ireland's scoring all these goals as well, because I just think he's a genius. I mean, I think Pep Guardiola is a genius, and I think no matter what player would come into that side, he would make Man City fantastic, good, challenging for honours, no matter who it is. He won the title with Foden up front, didn't he? He's bought Jack Grealish in for 100 million, and now you can't get him out the side. He's made these players into different players, and I just think no matter who he would bring in, or what player he is, they would hit the ground.
Kev can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually what happens when City bring in players is they take a season to settle, and their second season is much better, right? It's happened with Grealish, it happened with numerous players, whereas Haaland really has hit the ground running.
Yeah, you're right. It's happened with almost everybody under Pep. Yeah. So I'm ecstatic if people think that Haaland is not even yet at his peak under City. And by the way, the rumor is that I agree with you. By the way, James, at some point he's going to move on from City. Whether that's going to be in a year or 3 or 5, whatever. He will move. He's only 22. The talk is that City are already talking about renewing his contract with him now, so that they can keep him longer. But he's not going to turn into. I doubt very much whether he's going to turn into a player that's going to stay with us like De Bruyne and Aguero and company and Yaya and David Silva. I think he's ambitious. I think he wants to play. I think he wants to go to different countries and score lots of different goals, break as many records as he possibly can. But yeah, if this is the season like lots of other players under Pep, that if this is the season that he's only getting used to the system, and his second season is going to be the season that he kicks in, then everybody look out, because he is a bit scary at the moment. Listen, I was one of those who was very unhappy when Pep took him off against Leipzig, when he'd scored 5 goals, because I wanted him to go on after 60 minutes.
Well, he's a Messi fan, isn't he? He didn't want Messi, but he's a Messi fan.
6 or 7 or 8. And, Pep jokingly said,
nonsense it was.
Erling has got opportunity to break those records further in his career. But I think even if Pep was being serious, what he doesn't realise is, me as a supporter, I might not get the opportunity to see somebody like Erling Haaland break records whilst I'm there in the stadium. So I wanted to see that. I wanted him to score 6 or 7, because then that's something as a supporter that's with me for the rest of my City supporting life. So, listen, we are blessed. It seems. I think going back to your point before, Steve, where you said that if Harry Kane had been at City this season, then maybe we'd be top of the league. Actually, I think you're underselling really what Arsenal have done this season. I do. I think we're roughly where we would expect us to be this season.
I think you'd be closer.
No, the point I'm making is Arsenal have had an unbelievable, exceptional season. And I think even if we'd have had Harry Kane in the team this season, I don't think we would be much better off than where we are. You are having one of those seasons that are just unbelievable. that everything you touch turns to gold. You know, the games that you played against like Bournemouth, where, you know, that's a game that was dead and buried. I mean, against Aston Villa, that could have been a draw. It went on to be a win. You're having one of those seasons that is going to be very, very difficult for City to change. But I don't honestly think that had Haaland been in our team, that we would have. Sorry, had Harry Kane been our team, that our results would have been much different. I think the difference this season has been Arsenal. I don't think the difference has been a different player in our team.
I agree. More news that came this week. Conte got the sack. It wasn't surprising. After long-awaited sacking came 8 days after he delivered his explosive rant following Tottenham's draw to Southampton. The Italian took aim at his players and the club's hierarchy as they dropped points to the basement boys in the Premier League. Farrell, is this your opportunity to claw back some points while Tottenham are down and try and claim that full spot?
Could go either way, can't it? You have the long heralded manager bounce, don't you? But I guess it just depends how long that sort of lasts. I think you have to remember that Tottenham still have, you know, a very good sort of starting 11 when they're all fit and firing. So you don't know what impact. Who's the fellow, Stellini, that's come in? Is it for the time being? Obviously, they've been linked with Nagelsmann and the gentleman from Frankfurt, Glasner. So you have to see what happens. That's probably going to happen in the summer. But, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, 2 games in hand on Liverpool. There's still 7 points clear. Heading into what is going to be a very difficult April run of fixtures for Liverpool. I don't have Tottenham's schedule to hand, but I presume it's perhaps comparatively easier. It could help, but, you know, you get that win on the manager bounce and maybe, you know, build up some momentum. I think it'd actually be tougher for Liverpool, to be honest. I think Liverpool's chances of top 4 were better when they had Conte and all the disruption sort of going on behind the scenes. I actually think this might galvanise Tottenham to a certain degree. So, you know, we have to see what happens. But I don't, on the balance, I don't necessarily think it's as positive a boost as perhaps some may think.
Right, Steve, are you surprised by the sacking before the end of the season, or you think it was inevitable?
Yeah, no, I thought he was going to come. I mean, I was told, especially when he went out to Italy straight after. I was told that was it. He was told to go. And I've also been told today that when he came back, he sat down with Daniel Levy and literally said that I don't want to be here, but I'll take the job over till the end of the season. But Levy said, well, no, if you don't want to be here, we'll end up bringing Christian Stellini in, who is not the ideal choice anyway, but they couldn't get anyone else in. So they was under no choice but to bring in his assistant. But no, I'm not surprised. No, I said last week, I thought he was 100% right in what he said, but you can't come out and say that. And you know, he slagged off the players left, right, and centre. You can't go back into the dressing room, you know, the following, you know, week, you know, or 2 after, and then start talking to them as if they're, and then you've got to start tuning them up for the next game. You've got to start telling them the best thing is sliced bread. So for me, it was on the cards. I'm not surprised that he's gone. Obviously, being an Arsenal fan, I don't really care that he's gone. But again, he was right. You know, he was right in what he said. If Tottenham could really pick anybody that should go out of that club, it should be Daniel Levy, because for me, the guy's an absolute waste of space. I mean, Tottenham are where they are today. Without any trophies, not necessarily because of the players and because of the manager. I feel it's just because of him. It's no coincidence. It's that, you know, this has gone on with about the last 4 or 5 managers, and they've all been under the time that Levy's been at the club. So yeah, there's like a, it's sort of a bit of something consistency there. But no, I'm not surprised that he's gone. It'll be just interesting to see who comes in now. It looks like Nagelsmann's interested in talking to him. Poch wants the job, but apparently they've not contacted him. But yeah, I mean, he had to go. There was no coming back from that.
All right, James. I know Man United. Some Man United fans wanted Conte when Ollie was on his way out. Do you feel like you dodged a bullet here, or do you think that Conte would have brought silverware to Man United?
I think he'd have probably had more of a chance and more successful than he did at Spurs, but he wasn't the right man. He was never the right man for Manchester United because he's a very confrontational manager, as he proved in that press conference, right? And when you've got an ownership like Manchester United have gone, I don't want to bang on about it again and again, but that was just a match that was never, ever going to be made in heaven. It was just going to be confrontation. It's why it didn't work with Jose and it wouldn't have worked with Conte. Am I shocked about the whole thing? The major shock for me comes by the fact that Levy has actually sacked him when it's going to cost Levy out of his own pocket, because we all know he's tight as a duck's bottom and he's not really open to paying out so much money. So based on the fact that Conte's on a stupid amount of money until the end of the season, I thought they may have just rode it out. But the very strange thing is, for all we're going on about Tottenham's season, they're losing to Sheffield United, they're losing to Notts Forest, they're drawing after being 2 goals up against bottom of the league. They're in 4th place in the league. And part of me thinks, is this season for them being made to look worse because Man United, who haven't won a trophy in 6, have already won a trophy and are competing for 2 more and in the top 4 race, and their major arch rivals are top of the league and looking like winning it. And part of me thinks this is a standard season for Spurs. So people that are getting really upset about it, if you'd have offered them at the start of the season that they'd be 4th going into April, I'm pretty sure they'd have taken that in the league. They're in for a chance of top 4. Realistically, at the start of the season, if you asked a Spurs fan, where were you finishing? I think 4th would have been the highest that any of them said. So the fact that everyone's so shocked and thinks they've had an awful season, I'm not too sure about. They've beaten Chelsea, they've beaten Man City. Yeah, they've had some shocking results, but that's just Spurs, and that's not really changed over the past 20 odd years. And that's what Conte said in his press conference. And I agree with Steve, he wasn't wrong in what he said. But when you're calling out the players like that, you can't expect to get a tune out of them for the rest of the season. So he had to go.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Kevin, do you think that Tottenham are too far, like James is saying, far off of where they should be? Or do you think they're roundabouts where they should be? Mute. You're on mute, Kevin.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I agree with James. I think Tottenham are where you would roughly expect them to be. I think maybe actually 4th is better than where you might anticipate they would be. Most people would probably think that Liverpool would be in the top 4. But their biggest problem is that Arsenal are top of the league. And that's put them under pressure. I think had they been 5th and City, United, Liverpool and Chelsea had been in the top 4, Tottenham supporters would think, okay, let's push it a bit. Let's see if we can get in the top 4. But they'd sort of accept it. Strangely enough, the fact that the 4th isn't good enough. And the reason that isn't good enough is that Arsenal are top. Listen, I think Conte's... I said to you last week, I'm not surprised that Conte's gone. I think what he said might have been right, but the timing of it was lousy, unacceptable. You can't call out the players in this run into the end of the season now. You can't call out the club. So I'm not surprised that he's left. He's made some crazy mistakes, hasn't he? I think we talked last week about... even after last week, I remembered that when they played Sheffield United away in the FA Cup, that he left Kane on the bench. We've just been talking before about Kane, about how good the striker he is. Is that a certain arrogance that he's decided to go to Sheffield United? where it actually in the past that when Sheffield United were in the Premier League, I think they suffered a bad defeat, Spurs at Sheffield United when Conte was manager. So to go there without your best player and leave him on the bench is either stupid or arrogant, and either one of those doesn't bode well on him. So I think he had to go. But in terms of where Spurs currently are in the Premier League, I think that's slightly higher than you would expect them to be. Who's going to replace him? I don't honestly know, to be honest with you. If they do end up with Nagelsmann, last week, when we were talking about Conte, if any of us would have suggested that Nagelsmann would end up as the Spurs' next manager, if I'd have said that, everybody would have thought I was bonkers.
Yeah,
because he's the manager of Bayern Munich. So, how quickly things change in football. If he does end up at Spurs, I think that's a great appointment for them. I think it really is a great appointment. But what they've got to do, and surprisingly, Bayern Munich have not been because of the arrogance of them as well as a football club. What they have to do is they have to be patient. A little bit like, well, not a little bit, very much like Arsenal have been with Arteta. You have to bring him in. You have to give him a 5-year contract. You have to let him change the whole philosophy and the ethos and that squad. You have to allow Nagelsmann to go in and have time, be patient, give him the money he needs, and let's see what happens. Because if you don't do that, we'll be talking about Spurs changing managers again, not winning a trophy for the next 10 years.
I think it's Levy that's got to change, though. Levy's the one that's got to change. Because the last
he's probably got to go.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it matters what manager comes in. I think you'll have exactly the same problem if he's in charge. We'll see.
It's a short-termism that has to change, doesn't it? Because they've tried this. They went from the long project with Pochettino, got to a Champions League final, didn't work. It didn't work out. Changed managers. They went for the short-term, big reward kind of idea with Conte. They probably looked over at Chelsea and thought, well, that's worked out quite neatly for them. But obviously, Tottenham just aren't the same club as Chelsea, and it hasn't worked out. And it's ultimately very clear they can't pursue another short-term project manager. You need someone there, as Kev was saying, for the next 5 years. You need someone to set a culture, as Guardiola's done, as Klopp's done, as Arteta's done. You can see across the league where this has worked out. It's very clear that short-termism doesn't work for clubs. Look at all the clubs that have won, the league in the last year. Arsenal, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, especially not unless you effectively have a club backing you with an open checkbook, which Tottenham don't have. They've got the funds to support a long-term manager, but you can't really go at this the old way. Again, Chelsea used to with Mourinho, with Conte. It just doesn't. I don't think it even fits with a club like Tottenham and their sort of DNA.
Farrell, you've seen your club go from a team that was in and around 6th spot regularly, trying to get into the Champions League spot, to then be a consistent team that goes for the Premier League. What is it that you see that Tottenham needs to do apart from that longevity? What was it? Like you said, a culture change. Where's that need to shift? There's got to be something in the team, in amongst the hierarchy as well.
No, it seems stupid to say it, but everything from top to bottom, from your tacticians to your canteen, everything from top to bottom. You look at just the staff that Liverpool brought in, your fitness and conditioning. We brought in a guy that used to work for Dortmund at the same time when Klopp was at Dortmund, I believe, for at least a couple of years. Schlumberger, I think he's head of conditioning now or something. We've got an unbelievable nutritionist in Mona Nemeth. It's little thing. It comes down to marginal gains. Ultimately, I think that was Klopp's sort of go-to when we were sort of competing with City. We knew, okay, fine, we're not going to have the same level of financial backing, but obviously, you can build the squad slowly over the years, make your sound purchases, your Andy Robertsons for £8 million, your Genie Wijnaldums for £25 million. But then it's marginal gains beyond that. What can you do off the pitch to maximise your chances of success? So it is everything. It is, as Steve mentioned, it is making sure that you've got all the right people in the right positions around the club. Mike Gordon has an excellent relationship with Jurgen Klopp. It's ensuring that there is that synergy from top to bottom between your ownership and between your manager. You know, part of Liverpool's success is that Klopp knows that he can go to someone within the FSG organisation and go, "This is what I want. These are the current problems I'm experiencing. Can you help me with this?" I don't know if Conte could do that with Levy or with any member of ENIC. I don't know if any future manager, a Nagelsmann or that. You have to have that. If you don't have that agreement at board level between the manager and one of the key figures in your ownership, you're unlikely to have sort of long-term success, or you're completely reliant on the skill of the manager with the budget you've got. But you've got to have that level of agreement and understanding. And then it's about everything you do sort of off the pitch in terms of hiring the right personnel. For Liverpool, our recruitment team, we had Michael Edwards, who's one of the greatest sporting directors. We had an unbelievable data-driven recruitment team. We still got key figures there, Dave Fallows, so on and so forth, that have informed every sort of decision that we've made. So it's a simple answer, but it is literally everything from top to bottom. So Tottenham will need that total reform. As to whether Levy's going to go, is anyone's guess.
I very much doubt it. All right, so we've got some big games coming up this weekend. Manchester United take on Newcastle in a 6-pointer. Liverpool take on Manchester City, and Arsenal take on Leeds. Let's go to James first. Away to Newcastle, James. What's your feelings on the game? And give us a score prediction afterwards as well.
And my feelings about the game is I'm not looking forward to doing the steps at Newcastle. Anyone ever been to St James's Park and trying to be away? Jeez, I've been on the Stairmaster for half an hour today as a warm-up. Like, they put you in the gods, honestly. They put you right up there. And Newcastle fans, right, in all fairness, I'm gonna praise them a little bit, right? Because we've obviously played them at Wembley a few weeks ago or last month, and they basically took over London. They were everywhere. It was a huge moment for them. It was their first final since we beat them in '99 in the FA Cup on the way to the treble, and they made the most out of the experience, and they were incredible. Everywhere you turn, left, right, ahead, everywhere was Newcastle fans in the ground. They gave it their all. They were just outclassed by a better team on the day. I'm not massively, and this will probably get clipped because we might not win, but I'm not massively worried about Newcastle. I'm really not. If you ask me, like, we've drawn Brighton in the semi-final of the FA Cup, I'm more worried about the Brighton game than I was about Newcastle in the final. I just don't think they offer that much as an attacking threat. They've got individual brilliance sometimes, but they're not organised in the fact that they're going to just put together magic bits of play and hurt you like that. So I think we can go there and grind out a result. I think that, in all fairness to Newcastle, to give them some praise, I think they're one of maybe 3 teams this season. And again, don't shoot me down because I'm not going to mention some of your teams. But I think if you look at Arsenal, you look at Man United, and you look at Newcastle, I think they're the 3 teams that are grinding out results when they're not really playing that well. I think City are playing well and winning, and when they don't play well, they don't win. Same with Liverpool, same with Chelsea, same with Spurs. But I think the majority of time United have been in tight games this season, especially at home, and we've come through them. Arsenal have been behind late in games, come back and won. And Newcastle have had a few last-minute winners recently, like 2 or 3 recently in the past month and a half. So I do think they have the ability to grind out results. I just think Erik ten Hag is going to have too much for them on a day. And like you said, it's a 6-pointer, and they're 3 points behind us at the moment. And I think if we win that then puts us 6 clear of Newcastle. We've got a couple of games in hand over Spurs as well. I think that really cements the top 4 place if we win. So score prediction, match prediction, Manchester United win, and I will go for 2-1 Man United.
All right, James is going for a 2-1 victory against Newcastle. We shall see. Steve, Newcastle only conceded 19 goals this season. Yeah. Phenomenal season so far. They are dropping off a bit when it comes to scoring. Not much of an attacking threat, as James has just said. But how do you see this game going at Man United versus Newcastle?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult place to go to, Newcastle. And they are coming back into a bit of form recently, and when Man United rock up to town, you can bet that the Newcastle crowd are going to be up for it. and the players are going to be up for it. Just like when Arsenal went there last season and they beat us 2-0. I think it's going to be tough for Manchester United. I think Newcastle, especially at home, are a different kettle of fish. They're the draw specialists. I think there's a reason for that, and that's because they're very strong in the middle of the park. And also,
we've got no Casemiro as well, Steve, by the way.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth, James. I was going to say Casemiro not being there, Gamirez in the midfield. He's one hell of a player for me, Gamirez. I mean, I'd have him at Arsenal. He's quality. And you should say they're not fantastic at going forward, but they can nick goals. Almiron can nick a goal, and one player. I mean, obviously, I'm not comparing him to Haaland, nowhere near it. But I think a player that doesn't get mentioned a lot. I think next season you're going to see really come into his own is Alexander Isak. I think he's starting to sort of show it just recently. Some of the touches, the goal he scored last weekend was incredible. A touch. We've seen glimpses of him at his club before. He's going to be a danger for Manchester United. They're going to have to watch him. So there's areas all over the park that I think that Man United are going to keep the eye on. Who will they play up front? Is Martial going to be fit? We know he's back in training. Will Weghorst start? I think if Martial's fit, I'd play Martial. Weghorst is, I think, will sort of, look going by the players that, people like Botman at the back. I think they might get the better of someone like Weghorst and also Dan Burn as well. Tall, big, strong. So I think, maybe if Martial was fit, maybe James would bring someone like him in. So it'd be difficult. For my score prediction, I'm going to go for a draw. I think there'll be goals. I'm going to go for a 2-2.
All right. Farrell, chance to see teams around your club drop points. Do you think a draw best result for you?
I mean, I think United are probably. I think that I can safely say they're bolt on for the top four. And obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I don't really want United to win, regardless of the circumstances. But United winning would objectively help Liverpool in this situation. With Steve's mentioned, Newcastle look like they're starting to find some form again. We've had the international break, and that's going to throw a spanner in the works for so many teams. So we're just going to have to see how that one plays out. But United winning this situation would help Liverpool quite a lot in this case, because I think our main competitors are they are Tottenham, Newcastle, and you can even go as far as saying as Brighton, depending on how what kind of form they pick up in April. I actually think as a side note, Brighton are massively underrated in this race for European football. If they don't get top four, I think they'll be there or thereabouts, fifth or sixth. I think Deserby's done an absolutely amazing job since he's come in. But yeah, I can see a draw happening as well in this one. But I think a win would ultimately benefit Liverpool in terms of our top four hopes. I think if Newcastle are out of the equation, I'd rather be going up against Tottenham and Brighton.
All right. How do you see this one going, Kevin? Do you see a Man United victory, or do you think that Newcastle can hold Man United?
Listen, I think Newcastle, the last couple of games, I've watched both of their games live. At home to Wolves, when I think in the first half against Wolves they could have been 3 or 4-0 up, and they were away to Notts Forest, which by the sounds of people think, Notts Forest, but Notts Forest, their home record recently has been exceptional, and I know Newcastle won it with a last-minute penalty, but I thought they played very well that game as well. So Newcastle have come back into form. I agree with Steve. I think Isaac has made a massive difference to their team. Manchester United will be without Casemiro, who he's no Rodri, that's for sure, but he certainly made a difference.
Everyone says
he certainly made a difference to
the third best defensive middle player in the league.
That's for sure. And I was going to say that they might be without Rashford as well, but the reality is they won't be. He's just been on holiday. He's not been injured, so Rashford will be back, I'm sure. It will be close. I wouldn't disagree with Steve. I think if I was a betting man, and I'm not really, I would probably go for a draw. I think on that one, which suits Manchester United. I think they're in a comfortable position in that top four. I think nobody would expect Manchester United to not qualify for the Champions League next season. They've had a few results recently, which 3 weeks ago I thought they were probably still in with the shout of winning the Premier League if results had gone their way and a couple of other results gone against City or Arsenal. I do think they're out of the race for the Premier League now. But I would be shocked, delighted, but I would be shocked if they don't finish in the top four. So a draw actually for them is not a bad result. Newcastle actually probably wouldn't be too disappointed to take a point from that game. Whereas, Liverpool will be looking, unusually, Liverpool will be looking for United to win.
Yes, I think they will be. Farrell, the big game this weekend. Manchester City against Liverpool. Nervous?
Come on, Farrell. Beat the drum for Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a look at sort of our results against the top six, and I'm going to exclude the Carabao Cup loss to City at the Etihad, I believe that was. We've actually got a 50% win rate against the top six so far this season. Our away record, however, is 33%. It's a tough one. I think normally, Liverpool's away record has been absolutely horrific this season. But the one thing we do have going for us is we do tend to raise our game critically against the better sides, and even more critically against City. I don't know. It's one of those. We could be absolutely awful in any season, but for Pep Guardiola and City, I think does, and historically has, ultimately in the title race, has brought the best out of Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. And we've got to bear in mind we're coming off the back of probably one of the most dull losses I've seen against Brentford, and even worse against Madrid at the Bernabeu. That was absolutely horrific. I don't know anyone really sat through that. Given the nature of our season, we do tend to follow these kind of performances with a much improved display against whoever we face after. And I think I would rather, it's weird to say that given City are in far superior form at the moment, but I would rather come up against City at this point than come up against someone fighting relegation or on the lower half of the table. I think it actually weirdly suits Liverpool a lot more. So I think it will be a close one. I'm not I'm not confident enough to predict a Liverpool win, but I think we could see something like a 3-2 or something going either way. But I'm gonna, as per, stick on the fence with this one. I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Farrell was given. Kevin, what's your thoughts on this game? A must-win for Manchester City to try and claw back those points against Arsenal?
Yeah, listen, it's definitely a must-win game, I think. Arsenal are 8 points clear. City have a game in hand, but Arsenal have the points in the bag, which is always a better position to be in. Arsenal play Leeds on the Sunday, I think, which you would anticipate then Arsenal will win that game. So you wouldn't want to be in a position where it's a game that we don't win and potentially Arsenal move 11 points clear. On form, City, you would expect City to win that game, even though Liverpool are a team that do raise their game against City, irrespective of the forms of the current teams. Liverpool do have a good record, although at the Etihad it's not been so great recently. But I would never discount Liverpool. They have too many good players for me to foolishly say that it's going to be a walkover. But listen, Foden's definitely not going to be available after having his appendix removed. We'll be hopeful that Haaland is at least in the squad. If he is, having not trained for 2 weeks, I think Haaland might not start the game. But if Haaland's in the squad and on the bench, then yeah, I would still have to go for a City victory, I think.
And score prediction?
Ooh, crikey. 2-1.
2-1 to Manchester City. Steve, what's your thoughts on this game? Do you think that Man City could get the points to put the pressure on Arsenal?
Yeah, well, they're certainly looking after us this weekend after this international break, aren't they? It's unbelievable football matches. I mean, my heart's obviously going to be with Liverpool. I'll be cheering them on. And I do agree with Kevin that I feel that it's one Manchester City have to win. And normally when Manchester City have to win matches, they normally go out there and perform. They've had a break. So... they're at home, so you would think that they was favourites. And as for Liverpool, I mean, before the 1-0 defeat, they was coming back to a little bit of form. Their form was started ticking. With like players like Gakpo starting to show, Núñez starting to show, Salah's starting to come back into a bit of form. I don't know if Diaz is back soon or whether he'll be on the bench. I mean, he'd be a great plus if he is. But as much as I want Liverpool to win this game, I just feel that City, will come away with the win in this one. As I say, we'll have a lot to depend on what Liverpool, turns out. But I think they're at home. They've just got enough to nick it. I mean, Foden will be a big loss for them because again, another player who's was starting to play well. But they've still got that, robot up front who, can just do anything at any time. So I'm going to go. I think City might just nick it. Although Liverpool, if Liverpool turns up, the one that played against Manchester United, who knows? I think it's going to be a really tough game. But prediction, I'm going to agree with Kevin. I think it'll be a 2-1.
All right, and James, how do you see this one going?
I don't know what Liverpool turned up against Man United, mate. I've erased that from my memory, so I don't really want to think about that, to be fair. However, this may shock you because of that result, but I really, really do not rate this Liverpool team. And I know they put us to the sword and I know they battered us, but that very much is Anfield, right? That's not Liverpool. That is a Man United demise and Liverpool playing way above their stations on that day in front of their crowd. If you look at them since, they were hyping up their team because they've beaten a really, really poor bottom of the league Everton team. They've beaten a 10-man Newcastle who had chances in spite of being 10 men. And they beat United. Apart from that, their performances in the last 3 months have been dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I've watched a lot of their games live. They leak chances at the back. Absolutely leak chances at the back because they've got who was formerly the best centre-back in the world, now looks scared of making a tackle. You've got full-backs that can't defend. So at the end, I really don't I don't see it going any other way apart from a City win. I really don't. Haaland not playing is probably their best shout. But I just don't see any way that Liverpool hurt City at the Etihad. I really don't. I really, really don't.
Don't hold back, James.
I won't do. Like, they didn't hold back at Anfield, so why am I going to hold back now?
Hey, Farrell, please.
All right. So, what's your score prediction?
4-1 Man City.
Yoy. All right, we will see. James has gone for a 4-1 victory to Manchester City.
Farrell looks disgusting.
I don't know why.
I hate both of them, by the way, so it's a win-win.
I don't know why Steve was cheering. We don't want a 4-1 victory.
No, I know.
Do not want a 4-1 victory for Man City over Newcastle, over Liverpool. That will give them. No, we don't need that. Is Steve back there? It feels like he's going to be on a second. And the final game is Arsenal versus Leeds. Honestly, Arsenal have got to win that game. If we want to win the league, we've got to be beating teams like Leeds. No doubt about it.
Is Jesus back, Kieran? Like fully back, fully fit?
He is back. But I don't know. Arteta's not rushing him.
Okay.
He's drip feeding in minutes at the moment, and I don't see him starting. I don't see him starting against Leeds. I'd like him to start against Leeds, but I just don't see it.
And what about your best player, the best CDM in the world, tried to take out of the title race the other day?
Oh, what Rodri trying to take out?
Yeah, just like that person that, like Casemiro, couldn't lace his boots, apparently, tried to break Odegaard's leg, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, that was naughty, wasn't it?
It wasn't great.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, I didn't say Casemiro couldn't lace his boots. I did give him some compliment and say that he's the second best in the Premier League. But
I take exception to that, Kevin, I'm afraid. Best.
Sorry?
I'm taking exception to that. You're forgetting about
I think everyone does. Everyone thinks their wife is the best looking, as Arsene
Yeah, but my wife's got five Champions League. So your wife can stay over there in a dress from George or whatever. Mine's wearing Louis Vuitton. Don't worry about what your wife's doing. My wife has got the lot.
Didn't Luke Chadwick win the Champions League?
Yeah. He's a player. He's got more Premier Leagues than Steven Gerrard.
Listen, in the Premier League.
Farrell weren't even involved in that.
Pushing it, pushing it.
It's a fact.
Arguing with Kevin.
Well, listen, if we're going to talk about that,
He ain't letting him off the hook.
If we're going to talk about that challenge by Rodri on Odegaard, listen, I think it's a penalty, but it's just an everyday challenge. It's an everyday challenge that in the Premier League. It's not malicious. He's not targeted him. Listen, he got up. He was so badly injured that he got up and chased the referee and got booked for it. So, come on, do me a favour. Arsenal, by the way, are a team who used to win the league by kicking every other team's players, week in, week out. Tony Adams, Vieira, who brought his legendary status to City. So don't start talking to me about angels that play in the red of Arsenal. It's what football is all about. Sometimes challenges come in, you get on with it, but to have a little bit of a whinge about it, get on with it. Get on with it. We've all seen the game played much harder than it's played these days, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And for that to be, I think one of the papers called it a horror tackle. Listen, it's aggressive. It's a little bit more physical than you would like it to be. It's 1 foot, by the way. It's 1 foot. It's a penalty and it's a foul in my book, but it's nothing worse than that. Get on with it.
All right. That is Kevin's message to Arsenal fans. Steve, Arsenal leads quickly. Give us your score predictions.
Arsenal leads. Yeah, I think I think we'll win this. I think we'll win it, and hopefully we'll go 11 points clear. But I don't think we will. We'll be playing after after Man City have played. I think so on the Saturday. So yeah, I think we'll go and win it. We've got I think we've got more or less a full strength squad there. Right, I don't know how Saliba is, but we brought in Bobby Holdinho in the other week, and he was fantastic. So I ain't got no qualms about bringing him or worries about him bringing him in again. I think we'll turn them over, and maybe we'll let a goal in. But yeah, another victory for the boys. 3-1 to the Arsenal.
All right, 3-1. And that is all we have time for. We will be talking about Brighton next week. Don't worry, Brighton fans. We will talk about you. We're not dismissing you. I gave you a little shout at the start. And Brentford fans, of course, because you're also in it as well.
Can we have a quick laugh at Chelsea? Can we just laugh at Chelsea for where they are?
Can I also just say that thankfully that you Arsenal boys didn't embarrass yourselves by throwing in that question about who is better, KDB or Odegaard. You can save that for next week if you want to.
Yeah, no, I will. And we're talking about a better season. Kevin, we're talking about a better season. We're talking about a better season.
Come on.
These are questions that the fans are asking, so we have to answer them. All right? We have to do a duty. We have to do a duty. All right. Thank you for everyone who's joined us today. Kevin, James, Farrell, and Steve. You've been absolutely quality. Everyone in the comment section who's joined us, thank you for that. Anyone who's joined us online, if you are new to the show, press that like, press that subscribe button and press that share button. Just press the copy button. That's all you've got to do. It works the same way. And if you're a regular for the show, press that like and obviously press that share button. Appreciate your support, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, everyone.
It's been lovely. Thank
Welcome,
you.
mate.
Cheers,
Pleasure.
guys. Loved it.
Cheers.
All right. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.